Hello and welcome to Metal Toad University. This is our 6th class, and unfortunately we had a bit of an audio error last time, so I'm just going to do a brief recap of the stuff we did last week. So let me grab my file here. We basically took everything we've learned so far and built a site with it. So, we've got a header here with our title. We have 4 pieces of navigation. Oh, it's not up. Oh, I need to hit the button. Sorry, folks online, one moment. So we've got the headline. We've got some navigation here. We've got, this is actually a whole marquee that fades in and out. We've got a nice little Facebook widget over here for comments. We scroll down, we get a whole lot of text. This is our what section. You notice this navigation slid in from the right here. This is our where. We've got a Google map. We added some sections for driving directions and parking instructions. And then our pics, we added a gallery that allows you to navigate through the images. And just to recap, we added some smooth scrolling, so you can click a link and it will scroll smoothly down. And we'll pop open the code a little bit. Take a look at this. Apparently my computer knows that I'm trying to do something. All right, sorry folks online, I'm going to share my whole desktop. There you go. All right. Okay, so this is all the JavaScript we wrote to make all those things happen. What the real magic came when we downloaded some plugins and added those here. So we've got the cycle plugin here. This does our marquee. We've got, let's see. Oh, thanks Toots Plus for interrupting. We've got, let's see, this is all some stuff for the cycle stuff. We'll go down to the bottom here. We also have the smooth scroll query here, or smooth scroll jQuery plugin. And I'll show you what we had to do. So all we had to do was set our ID and call the cycle function, and that did it. And we'll look at the structure of the marquee here. We've got our marquee right here, and it just has a series of 5 articles that it goes through. So calling cycle makes it makes a nice little slideshow out of everything in there. Show hand. This is how we are doing the slide-in navigation. Basically, we say if the scroll top of the window is greater than 135, which if we go back to our browser, that's the height right here, our navigation and our head. So basically when it goes past 135, past the navigation, it adds a class of active. If it's not 135, it simply removes it. And we'll see what the, we'll take a look at what the active class does here. So this is all the CSS we wrote. Not a whole bunch. We started with a really nice template from HTML5 boilerplate. And just a reminder that you can go to our blog on metaltoad.com and download both the files that we used for layout, the Photoshop files, and you can also download the site as it was finished. So we've got a hand nav here. Position is fixed. It's width, and it's off the screen the same amount of its width, -100 to the right. Then we have a WebKit transition, and essentially what this does is says anytime the right value changes, make that change over the course of 1 second and use some easing. So you see when we add the active, all we're doing is making the right go to 0, and this is the line that animates it between the right here and the right there. And all we're doing with JavaScript is adding that class and removing that class. So anytime the window scrolls, I want to run this function and check. Down here, this is the smooth scroll. Any A tag on the page will do a smooth scroll. We call that function with a couple options. We have easing. This is just kind of a nice way to ease it, so it's just not linear. It kind of does a little bit of a slow up. Let's see if I can demonstrate that. So it kind of starts out slow, gets faster, and then slows down again. Starts out fast, gets slower, slows down again. And then we said we wanted it to take 1.4 seconds. These are milliseconds here. And then down here, oops, I forgot to mention we had another plugin here called Colorbox for the gallery. And again, all I did for that was all the A tags that have the gallery link, use the Colorbox. And then I have an opacity, and this rel is group 1. That basically groups all of these A galleries into the same group so that you can, once you open one, navigate through them. All right. So that's essentially what we did last week. I do want to give a shout out to all the Metal Toads who have been helping me through this. Tom Martin has been helping throughout the class. He also does some great work with a group called Chick Tech. So if you are female interested in coding, be sure to check that out. I'm not sure if that's open enrollment or not. Maybe I shouldn't have mentioned anything, but
you pretty much got to be in high school.
Pretty much got to be in high school. Okay.
No, they do everything. Actually, it's all the
I
did was high school.
He did high school, but they do everybody. We also have Robert Hayden, and Robert Hayden's definitely an unsung hero so far. He's been doing all the video production for me. I probably couldn't be doing most of this without him, so definitely got to thank him. And we also want to thank Peter Bliss for supplying some of our students with the USB keys with Linux on them. That's been very helpful. So thanks to all those people. With everything out of the way, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to our guest speaker today, Chris Check. He is our brand new designer, and he's going to walk through a design that he put together based on the comps we looked at last week that we're going to flush out here in class, and then maybe if we have time, apply it. So there's going to be a brief break in the recordings and the internet sessions as I switch over all the equipment, but bear with us just a moment.
Okay, so hey guys, looks like last week you guys made a sort of a design comp for Dan's Halloween party, and he asked me to do a quick little design layout. So I did this morning, and just gonna kind of go through and show you some of like the elements that you guys may find familiar in the wireframe, but it's a little different in the design comp. My mouse is getting to me right now. Bloody face, I like it. Okay. So yeah, I'll just go through really fast and kind of show you how I structured this out and built it. It's pretty simple.
Sorry, 1 minute. We need to share your screen again on the Google Hangout. There we go.
Should be good. So yeah, I went off the comps you guys built and kind of threw this together. Let's just go through sort of the folders I have here. So my header folder completely turns off the whole header section. Then we kind of have the nav right there. That disappears. We have, this is the where, or the what section that you guys did. Looks a little familiar. We got the where, that's pretty simple. The Google Maps, and then 2 links for parking and directions. Then we have the pics gallery down here, and I threw in some pretty awesome art. If you guys know it, you're in the know.
The geeks are giggling.
Also, that side nav that's gonna pop out. Dan said he wanted to do something kind of interesting, so we decided to do a little zombie hand that would slide out, and it would have the navigation on the fingers.
Awesome.
It's pretty, yeah, gruesome. I guess that's what we're going for, though.
That's right.
So yeah, let's just kind of go through this and I guess fix some stuff that's not really looking right. This is kind of hard to read right now, so let's go into our header. And this is just a series of, there's layers upon layers in the folders. You got little zombie hands that you can turn off here, you can turn all that. But yeah, this text is a little funky right now, so I figured we would do something like this, just a quick outer glow, kind of makes it pop a little more. It's a old Photoshop effect, but it will work for this. Also, the typeface, so you guys can find this. It's a web font. It's a Google web font. It's called Pura Eta 1. Yeah. Should check it out if you want to end up building this. I think we're actually going to go through the process later in the class to actually implement all of this stuff. But yeah, Dan, what do you think next?
Well, let's see. Let's just kind of go through it.
Okay.
I like the homepage. I like the how the navigation's kind of at the bottom down there.
Mm-hmm.
So when we go down to what I really like this splash page. I think it's fine. Can we kind of scroll down?
Yeah.
So it looks like we've got a marquee there. So I'll have to get some images together there. Those are not my friends, but they very well could be. I think we're going to have to do some stuff to the Facebook widget to kind of make that a little larger, but we can do that in the HTML.
Yeah.
Let's see. I like the skulls down there. I think this section looks good. We should continue on.
We got the where section. It's simple.
Yeah, so the where section's pretty simple now. We're going to add some actual content about how to park in my cul-de-sac and how to get there if you don't know how to use a map by now. And then, the pick section is pretty straightforward. There's not a whole lot to this. One thing you did mention is some sort of footer.
Yeah, down here I was thinking maybe it looked a little empty, and since we have our picture gallery down here, people are going to be lingering at this section of the page, sort of this bottom half. So I thought maybe we could possibly make a graveyard scene down there, and
Awesome.
Something like that. So I cut these out, masked these gravestone images out before here, but let me just duplicate these, send them over to our comp. And
So you just moved those layers from the other file to this file?
Yeah, just with
Okay.
the duplicate.
Awesome.
And it looks like I accidentally put them in the hand nav. I don't want those in there. Let's make a new folder. We'll call this footer. Take our gravestones, place them up there, close our hand navigation, and then let's see where those gravestones ended up. There, all the way up there. Don't want that. So yeah, I figured we'd just do something kind of. Oh, excellent. I think the screen capture is killing my CPU.
Yeah, it's actually the screen recording is just miserable.
Yeah.
One thing I do to try to mitigate it a little bit is move the Google Hangoff kind of off the screen so it's not rendering all that video. Helps a little bit.
Can you close it?
Yeah, sure, that'll work.
Cool. Because it wasn't allowing me to even select these. But anyway, here we go. We got these. These are in our footer. Let's shrink them down. do something maybe like this. And add some more graveyard or gravestones in here. Possibly. It will let me do it. There it is. Put that one in, tilt that one in. A little smaller. This one. Do something like that. And a great way to learn all these Photoshop techniques and sort of playing with this stuff is just to do tutorials. There's tons of tutorials that have lots of, they'll look really confusing, and you'll see the image that you're going to end up making and you'll be like, whoa, wow, I don't think I could ever do that. But it's actually, it's pretty straightforward, and there's some really great ones out there that can teach you Photoshop fairly easily.
And now that Photoshop offers the Creative Cloud option, I mean, it's really no excuse to not get it.
Yeah, it's pretty great. But the graveyard looks decent. Let's add like some fog or something. Let's do that. So I'll make a new layer. Go up to filter. We'll go to render. We'll make clouds. That gave us white clouds. We don't want white clouds. Let's do red ones. So you change your foreground and background color, and that will change how the clouds look. So you can go to render clouds. There we go. That's some red clouds right there. That's red smoke. And what we want to do, I put a layer mask on this. I'm just gonna mask out the whole thing. So we'll go to edit, fill that with black to mask out all the smoke. And then what we're gonna do is switch to our brush, change it to white, so that we're unmasking. And I played with my brush settings a little bit. The key thing when you're doing, like, if you're gonna do like smoke or something, it's hardness, adjust the edges on the brush and how hard the line is that it's gonna make. And then there's size, but also there's opacity and flow. And opacity's just how translucent it is, and flow's how fast it comes out of the airbrush. Essentially, that's what Photoshop's brush is. It's just a digital airbrush.
Can you share your Photoshop screen again? You might want to just share your whole desktop. I think it may be switching off when it...
Desktop?
Yeah, it might be switching off every time you switch.
Cool.
Inception!
But yeah, I'll just paint some smoke in here. It's looking all right. Oh man, it's killing my computer. It's killing it. But yeah, something like this. Some smoke. You can kind of, the gravestones don't really seem like they're stuck in the ground at all. They look a little more just like they're floating. You don't really want that. Smoke looks relatively good. Let's make a new layer. Switch this. Painting with black now. I'm gonna put it under my smoke. I'm just gonna do something. Turn up the opacity, so where our black's a little thicker. And we'll just paint over the bottom of these. Or attempt to. So yeah, looks a little more like graveyard scene.
Do you think we could change the color slightly of some of those gravestones that we copied?
Yeah, let's do that. So we got like one back here in the back. That one's probably going to be a little bit darker than the ones in the front, so I'll just do a quick don't want to do that. We'll do a brightness layer adjustment. I always just do you go over here and create a clipping mask, and what that does is it applies to the layer that it is directly above. And so it's this brightness filter adjustment is just hitting this bottom, the layer that it's above. And we can turn down that brightness of that back gravestone a little bit more. Turn that contrast, something like that maybe. And then we can just, where was that other one? There that one is. Okay. Duplicate this. Duplicate our layer adjustment mask. You saw that our other back gravestone just got a lot darker. That's because there's two brightness filters on it. They're actually making it darker. Reapply our clipping mask. That puts that one in the back a little bit darker. Let's get a little funky with these and change some of the colors. Easy way to do that is you can do the hue and saturation layer adjustment. We'll move it down a little. Put a clipping mask on it so it's just hitting that one gravestone. You can slide these around and vaguely change the colors. Alright, you can colorize it. So we got like a green one down there, something like that. It's kind of cool. Maybe like a red one or something, so it looks like the smoke's reflecting. Yeah. See how it changed the whole color of my whole document? That's because the layer adjustment is affecting the whole thing without the clipping mask. Everything below it, the layer adjustment will affect. So we'll turn on that clipping mask and it will just do that one gravestone in the front. And you can adjust these anytime. You can re-click back in them and it brings up the dialog box to change the colors some more. So you can, you get really funky. I'll do like a bluish green. Yeah, something like that. That's pretty graveyardy. What else do we have to play with? Kind of have a spot right here that could use maybe some sort of divider between our what and where section. I found this image of a bunch of bloody weapons that I thought was definitely suitable.
Where do you go to find
Stuff like this, you can, it sounds really crazy, but there's actually DeviantArt. There's some people that take stock photos on there and throw them up there strictly for the purpose of either Photoshop manipulations. You can find a lot of stuff on Google if you're just going to use it for yourself, which is what a lot of people do. DeviantArt does have a stock photo section that's actually pretty robust. And you get a lot of like stylized stuff like this. You got a lot of horror stuff, a lot of fantasy stuff like that. Let's see where our string of weapons ended up. Let's duplicate that again. Oh yeah. Duplicate onto our comp PSD. Scroll up. There's our weapons kind of just floating in there. We'll do shrink this down. That's decent, but it's messing up with our clashing with our type. So we'll just throw it in as like something really small, something like that you'll barely notice. But we'll do We'll just duplicate it real fast. Duplicate that. Slide this over. Duplicate that again. Slide this over. And let's delete that little section right there that we don't need. Deleted. It's a little border that separates that content. What else could we do? Let's add a little bit of color to the side of our house. Let's like maybe do like some sort of green on there. We'll go back to our header, open that folder, and the house is in here somewhere. Oh, the house got merged with the skull. So let's do this. Let's use the same one we were using, the hue and saturation, and we'll put a clipping mask on there. We'll change the whole image, color of the whole image. Maybe like something like a little more green. Something like that. But actually, I kind of like the house black and white. Let's just keep the skull green. So what you can do is when you make you can put a clipping mask on layer adjustments as well as any other thing in any other layer in Photoshop, and that allows you to, if you guys aren't familiar with clipping mask, it makes a mask and then you can swap between black and white, and the black will take away and then the white will put it back. So you can sort of, it's a nice way to retain the integrity of your images. You don't ever have to, I never use the erase tool because that totally deletes it. You can play with your mistakes and take them back with clipping masks. You can paint it all black and then you're like, oh, actually I didn't really like that, so you can paint it white again. And it just, you can keep going back and forth. This is how a lot of people do like those really like cool, like let's morph two types of animals together, and you can sort of get the pieces to blend together as the more you play with the mask, because the opacity starts to change and you kind of get weird fades and stuff like that. But yeah, let's just take out a little bit of this, and you can just paint black in here. It's pretty Photoshop-y. Let's leave the skull green. But we want like a green background on our type. Something kind of just goes with the house. Something like that. Maybe on the hands. Oh, computer's freezing up. You can get something like that, something like that. And really there's a lot of different ways to do, like, really all the stuff I've shown you, like the layer mask and the adjustments. Photoshop's really just a box of tools, and you'll find the ones you like to use and which ones you like to use for certain things, and somebody else probably has a different process. That's what the tutorials are really great for. You kind of get to learn how certain people use all the tools and all the filters and adjustments and how they set up their documents, and then you can kind of adapt that and do your own sort of twist and use, you know, really like make your stuff your own. Use certain elements and filters in your own way and kind of get a style going. What do you think, Dan? What else do you want to do on this guy?
Let's see.
More skulls?
Actually, I'm not really digging the skull after the headlines. I think I like one, but not two.
One? Okay.
Is it possible to get rid of one of those?
Oh yeah. Yeah, you have a question?
I just noticed that the what is all capitalized, whereas the where
The
isn't
where is
all
not.
capitalized.
Yeah, that's probably would want to keep it consistent. I mean, I did with the pics. I probably just didn't notice with the where when I was when I was typing all this out. But try and stay all caps. But let's do Dan's request and eliminate those skulls. Oh, it looks like I put the skulls together. You can either mask it out or erase. In this case, I don't think I would ever need this skull again, and if I did, I could just copy this one, so I'll probably just erase. Turn that off. And let's change that, let's change the where. Fix that also. So yeah, just delete that. Not the what. And yeah, we got to keep this side kind of open because we're also gonna eventually code in this hand navigation thing that's gonna pop out when you scroll down. So trying to stay mindful of this area and try and keep, if there's gonna be anything, just keep it big and bold so we can still click on it.
Do you think we could reduce the size of the hand and increase the size of the text? I don't think I necessarily care if it goes over the fingers.
Put it on the palm possibly, or
yeah, actually, we could list them right on the palm, and actually, we'll get better cross-browser support that way. There is the ability to transform text in web pages and like rotate them, but it's not heavily supported. So if we could actually not rotate those and keep those in the hand and maybe make the hand a little smaller,
yeah,
I think we can get a little more accessible that way.
yeah, it looks like there is the hand, and there's our text. Let's do something like this.
That looks great.
Yeah, let's put the hand like right. I guess line it up with our Facebook widget, the fingertips. Try and work off a grid structure as much as you can. We have our these guys are on overlay right now. Also, another thing to do that you can use to play with your layers and get interesting effects are all the layer filters that you can put on these. These are mostly used for, like, most of the time adding texture to using textures and adding it to certain things. If you want to have like the background be like a stone texture or something, maybe that's something we could do after this.
Sure, that'd be great.
Yeah. Let's zoom in here. Not that close. Get the RSVP. I'd probably keep our links in the same order as they are on the site. So we'll start with the what first, and the where, and pics. RSVP. Kind of like them all jumbled, but let's straighten them out for I'm gonna rasterize these also. In Photoshop, you can keep your text open so you can edit it, or you can rasterize it, which means it turns it into a pixel object, a bitmap image that you can't re-edit or add letters to. So if you want to keep your text open, you have to make sure your text layers have the T, and then if you ever want to like stretch them or warp them or anything like that, or all kinds of stuff, or use them as knockouts or something, you can rasterize them. I'm just gonna rasterize them because moving them around as live text actually is kind of slow. They don't like to move as fluid as the images. But yeah, you can do, you can stretch them, do all this stuff with rasterized type. It's kind of cool. Straighten out these the best I can. I don't want to sit here having you guys watching me straighten stuff out. But
Yeah, don't sweat it too much. That'll be HTML in the end.
yeah, we'll center them, and then just something like that.
That is so goofy. I love it.
It's pretty goofy. And those are pretty hard to read. So I'm gonna select all of them, then merge layers. I'm gonna do this because we're gonna put an outer glow on them, sort of the similar effect we had on the text up there. Once again, it's like another layer styles is another dialog box that you can add a bunch of different effects to. You got all kinds of stuff in here. Mostly, most of the time it's used for like little detail stuff, like the bevel and emboss kind of gives you like some great 1997 effects on your type or something if you want to do something like that. But try and stay away from stuff like that.
Hey, so
Ooh,
it occurred to me that it's really important that we keep that HTML text, and unfortunately, background glows are not fully supported.
Okay.
So I think we may have to come up with another idea, even if it's just darkening the text and lightening the hand.
Yeah. Let's try that then. Let's back up. Back up to where all those were still singles.
Or you can build the glowy bit into the hand image so that when
Yeah.
the text is placed over it, you'll still have the same effect.
You could do that, but depending on how each browser renders the font, you could get kind of out of place there.
Gotcha.
I'm not saying it couldn't be done, but I'd rather just go a way that's a little more accessible.
Fair enough.
Yeah, that'd be cool though. It looked like he's like casting something or something like that. Let's turn the hand as wide as we can get it so it looks extra creepy. You can see my masking job.
Oh, I don't care. I'll sweat it.
Yeah, see, it changed our whole page. We don't want that. We want to put a clipping mask on that again. And like, dude, there's the wrinkles in the hand that are kind of screwing us up. Those are kind of weird. So let's.
Can we go black with the text?
Yeah, we can do black. Let's do. I already converted these. I already rasterized these ones out, so we'll just do something pretty simple. So select all those. Go to edit. Fill those with black. Now we have one layer with all those little links on them. I'm just gonna hide these.
Can I ask you a question about the process in general?
Yeah.
When you're making prompts like this, at what part of the process do you use different Creative Suite tools like Photoshop versus Illustrator and InDesign?
Okay, so the question was, when we're creating comps, at what point do we use the different Creative Suite tools like Illustrator, InDesign, and Photoshop. I suppose everybody has their own techniques. I'll tell you what I do, and that's I rarely go into Illustrator unless I know I'm going to have something that needs to be vector art, just because I know Photoshop a little better. And I never use InDesign because InDesign is really meant for print. How would you answer that?
Yeah, I've built some comps in InDesign, and I've built comps in Illustrator. Photoshop's the easiest to hand off to a developer because you can do all your measurements in pixels, and you can set your document PPI to 72, or DPI to 72 for the web instead of print, which is 300. And then you can actually see, because if you put your images into InDesign, then it's automatically assuming that you're going to be printing, so it puts the resolution to 300 pixels per inch. And then in Photoshop, you can always play with different ones. You can, for instance, this one's set up for 72 because that's, I believe it's set up for 72. I hope so. It might not be. Yeah, it is. Perfect. Yeah, so that makes that bridge between Photoshop and web a little smoother. Usually I just use Illustrator for wireframing for websites, just because the shapes you can move around so easily. They're not bitmaps, so you can stretch shapes and they don't lose their sharp edges. I'll talk more about like wireframing in a little. I actually have some links to show.
Do you think we could just dodge the area? Oh, you're already on top of it, huh?
Yeah, something like a clone stamp or something. It will take like this like weird fleshy texture. Clone stamp allows you to, it's used for photo retouching a lot, or taking out things. It's whenever you see a bad Photoshop job, mostly like when someone's arm accidentally got Photoshopped out or something like that on a magazine cover, it's most of the time like a clone stamp mistake or something like that. Because what it does is it allows you to hit Alt and you sample an area. So I'm going to sample that area right now. And then as I paint, you can see it move, and what I am painting is that area that I sampled where that plus sign is. So it's painting, you can kind of see it when you do stuff like this. You know, kind of like adding like another finger or something like that, you know, kind of painting that in as it's referencing that plus sign. But we don't want that. What we do want to do is take out like these weird gashes in this guy's hand, because they're probably cool for the costume, but not for our navigation. So yeah, something kind of rough. This. Take out maybe the wrinkle on the top of the C. Ooh man, it's doing all kinds of stuff. Yeah, something sort of like that makes the type a little easier to read. So we have our white hand with our black text now. Yeah, that's much better. Much better. What else do we want to do, Dan?
I don't know. You feeling happy with it?
I think it's pretty...
You mentioned a stone texture. I think that'd be kind of cool to show off.
Yeah, let's do something like that. Let me see what I have on hand. I haven't downloaded a lot of textures yet. Let's go download one. I'll show you kind of how I would do something like this. There's a lot of texture sites out there. One is Zen Texture. let's say we wanted to do some sort of, probably like a grunge or something like that, and download one that you think looks cool, something like this. Perfect. Just as grungy as we wanted. What I'll do now is open that in Photoshop. Okay, yeah, that's pretty grungy, but that color doesn't really go with what we're doing. It's kind of like more like 9 Inch Nails than more. We'd probably just saturate that, something like that. Turn the background off and duplicate this onto our comp. That's fine. Okay. So yeah, gives us something like that. That's not where we're at. So we don't want to put the texture over everything, but I think we probably want it to be mainly over the black background because that's kind of just, it's pretty bland. So we'll do something like this, turn this back on. We can kind of see, oh yeah, we've got to put it over the header. So something like this will still allow us to get that texture on our header since we don't have any type up there. It doesn't need to, well, we have the headline, but the texture's not going to stop any readability or legibility there. I'll flip this, have it go kind of over the whole document. And there's tons of ways to add textures. Over here in the layer filters, you can. I usually use I use multiply a lot, actually, a ton, until it doesn't work on black. But try something like screen. Doesn't really do what we want. Overlay. It's hard to put textures on solid black because there's not a lot of. It's not a lot for the texture to play with. It's just not very forgiving. That's kind of cool. It's a little harsh though. Let's turn down the fill. Turn down the opacity a little. How does that look? Yeah, it's not too bad. It looks like pretty grungy now. Yeah, so I just turned that to hard light, which is one of these. They all do very specific things that relate to like old photography darkroom techniques that people used to do. I don't know exactly. I don't do darkroom photography developing photos, but they all have some sort of translation. I usually just flip through them and pick the best one that works for what the project and what I like at the time. You'll get the hang of like which ones you enjoy and which ones and how to use them with certain colors and get the effects you like over time. But yeah, that looks actually pretty good.
That's killer.
Yeah, you can turn it down if it's a little harsh. But yeah, just need to get some real content in here, and this is pretty much a real site.
Very cool. All right, well, why don't we go ahead and take a little break, and we'll transfer the computer back over to me, and we'll start chopping this sucker up and styling our website. All right, so now the developer, me, has gotten the design from the designer, Chris, and now I got to figure out how to turn this into HTML. So right off the bat, we spoke earlier about how this glow is hard to do in HTML. So what I'm actually going to do is this piece here is going to be a graphic. But before we do that, why don't we worry about everything else in the background? Let's see if we can get our backgrounds isolated. So that's kind of the main thing, is we have to isolate everything. So I got a layer 10 down here. I'm definitely going to want that. Got a header. Oop. That's on my back. Ooh. So this actually exposed all the background. Yep. So we'll go ahead and get rid of everything except for that. So now we've got a nice background texture here. It's probably going to be kind of large, but I'll show you some tricks to get rid of that, or to make it smaller at least. So I'm going to go to Save for Web. That's up in the File menu. We talked about this once before. And now that it's up, oh my goodness, it's so big. Let me just test this here. Oh, that's because our site is actually this big. Okay, so I'm going to save for web here. And PNG with transparency would be about 2.25 megabytes. That is unacceptable. So we're going to switch to something else. We're going to go to GIF, and we're going to drop the colors down. Go to 64. Still no improvements. Let's see. It doesn't seem to be changing no matter what I do here. Alright, so the original's 11 megabytes. The GIF is 2 megabytes. That is not going to work. Let's try lowering the amount of colors. Now we're getting a little closer. We're still at 800K. And you can see, even though I only have 8 colors, there's really not a whole lot. There's not a whole lot of colors in this background, so I'm kind of able to get away with it. You can see, though, I'm starting to lose some detail. Let's see what happens when we go to 4 colors. Okay, we've gotten down to 500K, but that's still half a meg. What can we do here? One thing we can do is we can make a much smaller file by taking a part of this and making a pattern. So this is something that Chris is probably a lot better at, but I'm going to give it a whirl. Oops. I'm just going to do a square here, something with some kind of detail. I'm going to crop it, and I'm going to get my measurements. They're 696 by 696. I'm going to use a filter called Offset. This is the old school way of making patterns. Chris probably knows a much better way.
This is how we do textures for 3D models too. If
Oh,
you wanna
cool.
Make a town.
Texture, the exact same process.
So half is 349. So I move it 349, 349. Blow that up a little bit. Now we can see the edges, and we're going to grab our clone tool. And I'm going to use lower opacity. I'm going to take the size of this way down. Yeah, that's pretty good. All right. So now we're going to select somewhere like here-ish and just kind of try to get rid of this background here. Oops. I need to go a little heavier. Sample a different spot. Since this is a random pattern, it's kind of easy to achieve. Basically, anywhere you see a line, get rid of it. So now, I've kind of gotten rid of the lines there. We'll make it a little more varied here. So now I'm going to run my filter again, and this will put it back. And now you see I still don't really see any lines. Now we'll save this for web. All right, 100K. Getting warmer. Okay. Do we want to lose that much detail? Let's go ahead and bump it back up to 8. That looks a little better. Take off transparency. See if no dither gives us any savings here. A little bit. So that's the actual size of our texture. I'm wondering if maybe I can get away with reducing it even more. Let's try that. Now the trade-off here is if people are looking closely, they might actually notice this. All right, so now we're at 202 and 202. Little clone stamp action. It's nice to know this technique isn't completely outdated. When I first started, I was actually aiming to be a designer. But somewhere along the line, I realized I was much better at code and not very good at design.
I feel you.
I'm not the only one, huh? So we'll run our filter again. No real lines that I see except maybe one down here. Okay, run our filter again. All right, looks pretty good. All right, let's save this. 127K as a PNG. That's much better. 50K. It's still a little higher than I like, but we'll go with that. So we'll save this as our bg.gif.
What would you normally shoot for size?
Size-wise, I like the overall weight of my page to be, you know, on a site like this, it's going to be kind of graphics heavy. So 1 to 1.5 megabytes would probably be a good size. If you're going over that, you're really starting to tax people's connection. So, all right, so I'm going to take a look at our code. And we've got our page here. Oops, height 500. Let me take a look at our code here. I'm just going to go ahead and apply it to the body. Why not? What's that say?
Good. You're just trying to reduce the time it takes to load it, right?
Yeah, exactly. The smaller the file size, the quicker it will load. Let's see. So we're going to talk about paths for a second. Here's my CSS file, main CSS. Here's our images. In order to point from this file to this file, I need to use this syntax to go up one level and then back down a level. If this was not in the CSS folder, I could simply start where I'm at and go to image. But since it's up one level and then down, the .. / is how you go up one level. And we will call our bg.gif. Go ahead and say repeat. And give that a save. Let's see what our site does. Collecting photos for our site here. Ta-da! We've got a pattern. And you can definitely see that it repeats, but I think with all the other stuff we have going on, I don't think we'll have a problem with that at all. All right, so let's go back to our Photoshop file, see what else we can do. Let me go to my history and back way the heck up. Okay. So we were able to do that part of the background. let's see if we can isolate this smoke. Header, smoke copy. Perfect. All right, I think I'm actually gonna make this part of the house image.
Yeah, it's down there. It's actually this cold skull.
Ah, got it.
They got merged.
Perfect. Okay, so I'm gonna select just the skull, and just the smoke. Looks like we're gonna need our background on there too, so we get that nice overlay. And it looks like there was an adjustment layer we're missing here.
A little down, right above the skull.
Oh.
Down, boom, right there.
There it is. There's the grain. So I can likely save this. Now, I don't want to save everything again. So let's find... And in fact, I actually don't want this texture down below because we have our texture going already. Let's see, what can we do here? Got our texture there. I'm just gonna go ahead and erase part of our texture. So we'll go down here. I'm gonna choose a nice big brush size. Just axe it. Get it? Axe it. It's the kind of stuff I'm bringing to the table in this class. All right. I'm just, you know what? I don't need to worry about getting rid of that because I'm actually going to crop it before there. Now it looks like I'm going to have to get rid of some of the black too. Looks like the black's actually on the skull. Let's all right. Now I'm going to select my smoke here, just so I can kind of see where it ends. Now I happen to know that it's at least down here too, so I'm gonna give it a little more of a cut here. All right, now we'll export this. So obviously a GIF is not going to work for us. It's going to look all sorts of gross if we do that. So we're going to have to go with PNG. Another reason we need to go with the PNG is we want full transparency down here. So let's let this sucker cook for a minute. Oh no, 3 megs. No bueno. What can we do here? So instead of a PNG, we may have to go JPEG on this. Now actually oops, but we have a problem with that because JPEG can't do transparency. Let's see. Okay, so I'm gonna back it up a little. We're gonna actually bring back some of that texture since we can't do transparency with the JPEG. All right. Just some of the things we go through while we're developing. And oh no, we cannot leave out the zombie arms. Also, I mentioned earlier that we're just going to use a graphic for the headline, but I'm not going to do that as part of it. I'll show you why in just a minute. Okay, so now we have something that I think we can grab. The only thing I'm a little worried about is the smoke here, so I'm going to do the kind of eraser thing there too. Alright, now we can JPEG this sucker. Alright. We'll go there. Go ahead and crop it. There we go, 343. That's much better. Actually, you know what? I hate to do this. I think the reason it was so big is because we were trying to export the whole file still, and I didn't crop it. So, we'll start over. Sorry. These are a lot of the iterations that you'd be going through on any site here. A lot of experimentation. All right. Oops. I think I was a little overzealous with that last stroke. Oh, computer, bear with me. Okay, that's pretty good. So we'll take that, we'll crop this. Hopefully we can get a much more manageable file size now. Alright, save that. $150K. Since this is such a large part of the site, I'm pretty okay with that. That's not horrible. Ooh, 1.5 megs. You know what? This is a demo site. I'm going to go ahead and pull the trigger here because I don't want to waste any more time. So we'll call this header PNG. Like I said, this site's a tad more garish than we normally work with. Alright, so we'll go back to the beginning of our history here. And we'll pull the logo out now. And we'll grab those rules too. Alright, so an easy way to kind of get to the best crop here is just go to image trim. Now we can save that. Definitely want transparent PNG here. Call it logo. We'll even spell it right. Alright, let's see what other images we can pull out of here. Go back to the beginning.
Have you named that similarly in your old design file, your original design file?
The question was, did I name that similarly as I did in my old design file? Are you asking if it matches up with anything in the HTML or the code that we worked on? It doesn't, and it doesn't have to, because really I can assign any file I want to whatever part.
Just as an organizational thing.
Yeah, I definitely recommend using, semantic names for your images. Of course, I just showed you a folder that has pick 1, pick 2, pick 3, but that's besides the point.
Do as I say, not
Do as I say, not as I do. All right, let's grab our hand nav. That's gonna be easy. Now remember, I wanted the text to be actual links. We'll grab this and trim it. Actually, one moment. I just kind of want to see if there's anything more to this hand. Interesting. Okay. I'll grab this guy, trim it, save that guy. Another transparency hand. It's occurring to me that this site is going to be rather large. That's okay. If they want to come to the party, they can deal with it. Gonna grab this little skull icon. Definitely something we're gonna use probably more than once. Trim that guy. Ooh. So that time I trimmed, and it looks like it has some extra stuff here. Sometimes it can be tricky to identify like half transparent layers. So one thing I do is I'll add a layer below and add black. And of course that's not showing me anything. Weird. But I'll go ahead and take my eraser and get rid of everything anyway.
Did he erase another skull?
He did, but when I did trim, it should trim to the pixels that are there.
Oh.
Alright, I'm on my skull here. Let's get rid of all whatever that is. Get rid of this extraneous layer and trim it again, and that should be a little better. Alright, fine. You're going to make me do it manually. I can do that.
So that filter is an auto trim.
It is an auto trim, and like everything that's automatic, it doesn't always work. More accurately, I'm probably not using it right. There's probably a better way to get rid of the transparent pixels that I missed there. We call this skull. Go back to our beginning. All right. Ooh, there, partner. Let's see if we can grab these knives here. There we go. There's our knives. Okay, so we'll isolate them. You know, come to think of it, he's got 3 copies here. I wonder if we could just copy this and repeat it horizontally. Why, yes we can. So I'll select that and trim it.
So the general rule is copying an image take less HTML? Or
Absolutely. You know, when you're displaying an image, when you're displaying the same image 3 times, your computer has to process that 3 times, but it only has to download it once, and that's the key thing. That's how we're saving file size. Of course, who cares about file size when you're doing blood and gore? So I don't need these little pictures here because we have our own. We do need this footer, though. Let's see how we can get this footer. Okay, and that's got all the smoky goodness all in there, so I'll go ahead and trim that. All right, Welsh Corgi. This is a dog gravestone. Okay, so we've got a bunch of images here. Let's go ahead and add them. So we've got a logo here. Let's go to our sheet. I believe we had a title at one point. Where did our title go? Interesting, we had an errant home link here too. I'll get rid of that. Okay, here's our title. So I actually want this to show up as text to other computers. When a search engine comes to this site, I want it to see this text here. What I don't want, or what I want to do though is hide that text so I can display an image instead. So we have class title there. Let's go into our CSS. Do a dot title. Leave font size of 0 pixels. That makes the font no longer apparent. Background URL. Remember, we have to use this same relative syntax again. Image and logo. And I can't spell very well. All right. So if we were to just do this, we can take a look, and we'll see up here, nothing. Because what happened is that's an inline element, that title. It's not designated as a block. So really, it'll shrink to whatever its contents are. And since I told it that the contents were size 0, it shrunk to nothing. So let's just change this to display block here. Okay, we just had a question from the class here. Let me go ahead and read it. On the topic of search engines, does it search through your web for text or your HTML, and can you make it so certain things show up when you search for them? The last part of that question is kind of a doozy, but I'll tackle the first part. Does it search for text or does it search for HTML? When a web browser or when a search engine crawler looks at your site, it's looking at the code. It's not necessarily looking at the rendered version of your code that we do. It's looking directly at the code. So there are a lot of things you can put in your code that will never display to users, but would display to search engines. And that's how you would kind of make it so that certain things show up in browsers. Search engine optimization is, some people call it an art. I kind of call it BS. It's not something I ever offered because you can't guarantee results and you end up in a war with whoever you're trying to get past in the Google results. And really what I found and what's happened is, Google's not stupid. They're hip to that, and they've actually, stopped worrying about people. The keyword tag is like useless now because people would just stuff so much stuff into it that Google just finally stopped looking at it. What Google really looks at is the content of your site. If your content's good, it will get indexed by Google. That's the most important thing I can say about search engine optimization is make sure you write good content. If you write good content, people link to it. The more people link to it, the more it'll show up in search results. So that's kind of what I have to say about search engine optimization. I'm sure I'm pissing some people off with that, but oh well. All right, so we added display block. Oh, still nothing. What do we do here? I'm going to open my inspector, take a look, see what I'm doing wrong. Okay, we've got our header up there. There's our title right there, 0 and 26. Let's go ahead and I'm going to open this in a new window. This is my image. All right. And I can see up in the title bar, it's 502 by 186. So we'll go refresh our page, and now we have a logo. Now we also have a header image we got to put in. Let's add that. We're going to add this to our actual header. Let's see. I think we do want it to involve our navigation also. It's behind that also. So we're going to go ahead and add it to the header container class, which happens to be right here. There's our header. Now you'll see it repeated over there. That's definitely not something we want. So let's take a look at this. I'm just going to get the width of this image. Let's go to my Photoshop file. How big are we? 1024. Okay, so right off the bat, I need to change my page width. Let's see how big our page is here. Oh no, that's stretching all the way. Well, that's not exactly what I want. So I'm actually going to add a wrapper around everything. Call it page. And I'm going to add everything in there. Oh, just to here, I think. And I'm going to indent all that. Very important. Keep your code clean. Right. Now, in our CSS, I noticed we had a page height of 500. So I'm just going to do a quick search for page. See if that comes up again. It's possible we could have... yep, see. Page is being used right here as a class. This section with the marquee and the aside. Oh, I see. We used page as each individual page. No problem. We'll call this something like... How about main? Is main being used? Nope. Oh, it is right there. Darn it. How about main page? Because I'm getting tired. Okay, save that. Go back to our main CSS. All right. So now our page is only on this side, but we want it centered. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to add margin 0 pixels, that's top and bottom in this case, and left and right is going to be auto. So now it knows to center itself in the middle. Cool, so now we've got a header. It looks like it's got kind of a weird page glow there. I'm actually going to get rid of this. Wait, do I want to do that? Nope, I'm going to worry about centering the logo first. So again, this is display block, and it has a set width, so we can use the same thing. 0 pixels and auto. In theory, maybe? No? Not going to do that for me. Alright. Let's try adding text align to the header. Oops, gotta spell it right. No dice. So normally this does it. Let's see what I'm missing here. Huh. Do a little experiment here and change this to a div. That did not help us. It's weird. So our wrapper has a margin of 0. I think that might have had something to do with it. So our wrapper Alright, bear with me here. Trying to figure out what's going on here. So it looks like our wrapper was assigning a width of 1026, which is close to our 1024. I'm actually considering getting rid of our main page now, since we already have this wrapper class on everything. Getting kind of warm, huh? Alright, hold on. Let me see if I can figure out why this thing isn't centering. Dang. Well, this is something I'm going to have to troubleshoot. But for right now, I'm going to move on just so we can keep the class going. Just part of the biz. So let's take a look at our comp again. Looks like our navigation goes all the way down here. Let's go to... Let's go from here up and just get this measurement. It's about 760. And that's our whole header region, I believe. Yep, header container. This guy. Oh shoot, I lost it already. 726, is that what I said? Something like that. 762, so close. Alright, so now we've stretched that a little bit. Let's see what this gives us. Alright, now at least we're looking a little better here. Okay, we need to give a little margin to this on the top to get it down. And since I know this site's going to be static and I know where the logo's going, I'll probably just add some margin to get it to the center too. So let's say the top needs about 200. Let's take a look at that. Let's actually measure. About 160. I'm going to take some liberties and go ahead and round up there. So 160 for the top. Let's say it's about 300 for the middle. Yeah, it looks about right. Center? 280? Sure. And it looks like we're going to have to put some margin below it to get these guys in the right place. We'll say it's about 350. Alright, and that'll give us that, putting our navigation right here. That's pretty much what we want. Grab that. Oops, we wanted that on our logo. Right? Yeah, our title. And I'll refresh, make sure this change stuck. Alright. So now we are going to add some navigation here. Let's get rid of this black background. Alright, that's good. Looks like we're just going to get rid of the background from the nav UL, no problem. Alright. And now we need our web font. I took the liberty of Locating that. Come on, computer. I forgot that the screen recording really likes that. All right. So, yes, we want gimme. Gimme, use, go. Download my collection, jeez. This is the use section. I'm not sure what it's trying to tell me there. But for right now, we'll just go ahead and download them. Since this is a Google font, you could actually link to the web font files themselves. Oh, it was just pointed out to me. Yep, no, that's what we did. Review, choose, use. Yep, still not. I'm not. Oh, I had to scroll. Dirt. Okay, so we'll grab this. Add this code to your website. So it's a link tag. So we're going to put this in the head. We'll go ahead and add a line here about web fonts. And I need to use the right kind of comment. That's the HTML comment there. Okay. Font family. That's all we need. Okay, you know, I'm going to take a look at this. It looks like this little bit of body copy right here is the only thing on the site that isn't in this font. So what I'm going to do is, rather than apply it to these elements here, I'm going to apply it to the body. And then when we want to override that one paragraph, we can worry about that. All right, let's see if we did this right. Ta-da! Oh, just kidding. That was the logo. Of course, that's going to look right. But we see all our stuff is nice. And all right. So now we got to make these guys look good. They are, go to my text tool here, click on it. Hopefully it'll tell me how big it is. 18 pixels. So we'll go to nav, font size, 18 pixels. Not even close. So apparently my measurements here in Photoshop aren't really giving me what I need. 60 pixels, that's what it was. All right. So remember earlier when we said that we could try to export the hand with the glow behind it, but there's no telling how the web fonts are going to render? This is a good example. Notice how much thicker we're seeing there. We also have some lowercase here, but I can fix that really quick. There's a CSS property for that.
Oh, you just order it all to be up.
Text transform, uppercase.
Huh.
Alright, I'm going to take a look at this and turn the font weight to normal, see if maybe it got bolded somehow. Nope, that's just as bold as it wants to be. Take a look through here. It doesn't look like there's anything I can do to make that any thinner. But that's just kind of what you deal with sometimes, especially when we're talking about web fonts. They are not especially mature. Whoa, it looks like that did help a little bit, didn't it? Let's go ahead and add that. Oops. I need to apply that to an A element. There we go. Now I'm applying it to the A's. Alright, that looks a little better. Cool. So now we've gotten the main part of our page done up here. It's looking pretty good, I think. Let's see if we can do a couple more things. Okay, let's go ahead and add our marquee. Then we might have to break. I'm going to make this header container a little larger, just to kind of play with something. Kind of want to see what happens to this red background here eventually. So what I might do is I might go back later and fix this image so it's a little better there. I'm just going to add a no repeat for now. So that's kind of where that's ending. That's a little unfortunate, but we'll fix that later. Okay, navigation's looking good. Let's add our marquees here. Okay, in each one of these articles, we're going to have some sort of picture title. And then we are going to have an image. Now remember, I'm at this level here. Oops. I'm at this level here with this index file, so I don't have to go up. I just have to go down into the image folder. And I went ahead and already prepared some of these.
So you already imported them into the file?
I'm sorry. The question was, I already imported them into the file. What do you mean?
Are they already?
They are already in my images folder. Yes. And I think I did 6 of them. All right. All right, we've got a marquee. Looks like we need to change the color of our font here. We could probably default our font to white at this point. Let's see, we've got red. We'll just do the oh, that's right, we need to add titles, huh? Forgot about that. So here we'll do an H2. So that the right spot for that? Oh, I suppose it's under the marquee, huh? Oh, jeez. Put this at the beginning of the what section. Okay. And I'm going to designate Alright, designated all my colors as white for now. But now I'm going to add a class for H2s. And I'm going to make this red. I refresh that, we should see some more white text. There we go, picture title. But then our H2 is here. Okay, so we've got our marquee, we've got our header and navigation. We're gonna need some love fixing this transition up. That's no problem. Why don't we go ahead for our last thing, we will do the hand navigation. Anybody mind if we run a little longer than 8? We can stop now if you like. Cool, we'll keep going a little bit. Alright, so we've got our hand image, and we don't want it to show up until we get past here. So right here, you know, we have this function in our JavaScript that looks for, it tests the window.scrollTop. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually run this function in our browser and tell us what that scroll top is, 776. Alright, so it will no longer pop up until we're past this navigation. And let's go ahead and do some direct styling over here. Got our hand nav, JavaScript. And, you know, before I do anything, I think I want to give it that background so I can measure that a little bit. So if I'm a class, it's hand nav. Okay, but I don't know how big hand is. img hand PNG. Looks like it's 355 by 291. Width 355 by 291. So if our width is 355, that's what we're going to want to change this to too. This will ensure that it goes off the screen. Haha, hand nav. That's pretty awesome. So notice it's going behind that Facebook. So we're gonna have to do something to fix that. And the way we do that,
Is that how you're gonna have the links? Or are you gonna...
no, we'll work on the links here in just a minute. All right. Boy, you know, with the way that hand turned out, I bet we could probably go back to red too, the way we lightened it. But anyway, we're going to add a Z index here of, let's see, let's try 1. 1 didn't work. Let's try 100. 10. We'll do 10. 10's safe. People can tend to get a little overzealous.
Z index.
So if you think of a normal axis plane, you have X and Y. If you add a third axis to give it 3 dimensions, that's your Z axis. So your Z index is the stacking order of your elements. I made the Z index of this higher, so it's above everything else. Cool, so we'll add Z index to our little hand. Z index 10. Now let's style these guys a little bit. You know what? I think we actually got rid of home in the comps, but since we kind of restyled it and we're not using the fingers, I'll go ahead and leave them in for now. So first thing, they're a tad big. Let's go 10 pixels. 20. That's good. So rather than just applying that to just that one element, I'm going to add a new class here. Hand nav A. Now I'm applying it to everything. Okay, it looks like these guys have some width or margin assigned to them. There we go. We've got some margin. So what I'm going to do is in our code, we want to specify hand nav ul. Oops. That was li, my bad. As a margin of 0. And our hand nav has a font size of 20 pixels. Give that a refresh. Ruh-roh. So I got the, looks like the hand applied, but the other one didn't. So if I look over here, eventually I should see some sort of font size. Didn't take the font size all the way down, so I may have to be a little more specific. See, we added it to nav earlier on, so that overrode our hand nav one. But I can fix that. We'll just add it to our more specific selector here. Okay, these guys are also, looks like they are lining up because we added this display inline block. So we're going to take that off. But we don't want to take it off our main navigation, just these guys. Might as well give them a color while we're at it, huh?
You didn't do it inside the other, where you were indicating the.
How come I didn't do it inside?
Where you.
Oh, how come I did another one?
Yes.
Because A tags tend to not get styled by default because of the way cascading works. An A tag was probably specified up above having a color. So in order to get the proper specification, I had to add the A. Remember, it's all about points and specificity. Okay. Now one thing I noticed is it looks like this guy here is still white. So let's see why. And that's because A visited is white. Or to click on this guy, now he'll be white. It's gonna be fun. All right, so yeah, you have a question?
Can you make it so it just doesn't do that?
Yeah, I absolutely can, and I'm gonna do that. So the reason that was being overridden is because the active and the visited were specified. So I'm gonna add a couple selectors here. Visited and active. Actually, I'm gonna do something different with the active. And nav a hover, and active will have a color of black. So now when I roll over it, it turns black. Now I just got to figure out why they're spacing out a little bit. And there it is, a little bit of margin on the A tag there. I probably added that to the, yep, I added that to the navigation. So we'll take our hand nav. Okay, I believe we can do it here. Might have to mess with the specificity a little bit. See what margin 0 does for us there. No dice. Alright, so rather than guess, I'm going to do some inspecting. And it is the A itself. So here's the margin 0 I added down here, but it's getting overridden by, oops. Well, what's going on here? I'm on the LI, sorry. Oops, it wasn't margin, it was padding. Cool. Now we'll just add a little margin here. Oops. We'll add it to the actual UL because the nav contains our background. Oh wait, hand nav contains our background, so we'll add it to the nav. And we'll go margin top. I'm gonna guess 70 pixels, almost. And I'm just gonna use my arrow keys till I like it. That's about where I want it to the top. So let's add some left and right to this. Right margin I don't care about. Bottom margin I don't care about. Left margin I want to add about probably more like 60. $75. That looks pretty good. So I'll copy this line back. Where'd my mouse go? Okay, I'll copy this back in. Oh, shoot, what selector did I use there? Just the nav, okay. So I want to go to hand nav. Do I have one of those yet? Nope.
No, there's one.
Oh, this one?
Yeah.
That's an LI. I need just this part. I could add nav to this, but that adds too much specificity to everything there. All right. That's pretty awesome. All right, so now as people scroll up, he disappears. Let's see what happens if we smooth scroll. That is pretty awesome. All right, and I think this is a good place to stop for now. Just to let you know, next week we're going to continue to style the rest of this. Probably get it all pretty done pretty quickly. And then we're going to work on how to actually make some changes to this if you wanted to create a different theme. I think one thing we could do that might be a little fun is we can do a secondary menu, maybe on the left, and it'll have different themes. So this will be our skull theme. Maybe we can do a blood theme or something like that.
It's like people could change it if they wanted to.
Exactly.
Or
That's
we could change it.
That's actually going to be the assignment for next week. Is I'm going to show you how we can create a new theme for the site, and then I'm going to have you guys do that at home. But there you go. That's Metal Toad Class 6. Really glad all you guys are still coming here and haven't laughed me off the web yet. See you next week.